everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Lauren McCormick, and I'm the Executive Director of the Walnut Creek Library Foundation, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our first program in the 2025-26 season of Live from the Library, a series of free evenings with authors, scholars, community leaders, and entertainers. I've got slides. We're out of practice, if you can't tell. I want to take a moment to thank the Live from the Library season sponsors, Minuteman Press of Lafayette and the Friends of the Walnut Creek Library. And on behalf of the Walnut Creek Library Foundation, I want to thank each of you for your support. You support the foundation just by being here, and some of you provide financial support as well. That's important because even though these programs are free, it costs money to put them on, and we wouldn't be able to do it without a little help from our friends. Your support enables us to do so much more to enrich the experience at both of Walnut Creek's beautiful libraries. Here's a look at some of the events and activities the foundation has sponsored recently. If you are already a donor, thank you again. And if not, you can become a donor right here and now by slipping a few dollars into the tip jar at the back of the room, or by visiting our website, www.wclibrary.org. You may hear closure announcements leading up to 8 p.m., but please don't be alarmed. Everyone will be able to exit the building when the program ends. We are also checking on a question about parking. I understand there are some signs up that indicate that you may be towed after 8 p.m. I think we'll all be fine. I think they don't want anyone to park after 8 p.m., so you're all in the clear. But we have some folks who maybe will help us out in case anything happens.
Not the has-beens.
No.
Part of what makes our libraries so great is the community in which they reside. We are honored to host 4 former leaders of this community tonight. Loella Haskew, our most recent mayor, who served on the city council from 2012 to 2024. Gary Skrel from 2000 to 2012, Kathy Hicks, who served from 1994 to 2006, and Gail Murray, whose term extended from 1981 to 1991. Their more than 4 decades of experience will provide thoughtful insight into this wonderful city. Without further ado, please help me welcome our esteemed guests this evening, former Walnut Creek Mayors Loella Haskew, Kathy Hicks, Gail Murray, Gary Skrel, and our moderator, Greg Neerland.
Thank you, Lauren. My name is Greg Neerland, and I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Walnut Creek Library Foundation. And I hope for the next hour or so, I will say very, very little and leave the floor to our 4 guests. My job is just to start the process. What I'd like to start with is to have each of you tell us why you started on, what caused you to decide to run for city council. We'll start with Kathy right here, because I'm throwing her a curveball because she gave me a bunch of questions. And this is one she wasn't expecting.
I didn't know that was one of the questions. I served on the Park Recreation and Open Space Commission and then the Planning Commission. And I had no idea of running for city council. But we had a rather contentious city council, and one person in particular needed to be replaced, and I was encouraged to run. And so I did, and I defeated that contentious person. So then we had a collegial council after that. We could agree without being disagreeable.
Gail?
I lived in Los Altos on the peninsula, and I saw how the orchards, the apricot orchards, were just mowed down. And when we came here, I saw all our walnut trees, and I thought, you know, all that's going to happen here. So I would like to get involved and make sure that we shape our city instead of having it be the hodgepodge that it was on the peninsula. So I got involved first on the Transportation Commission, then on the Planning Commission, and then on the council. So a long time shaping the city, and I think that we did a good job.
You did indeed. I have to start with a bit of a backstory because my mom was in the state house in the state of Michigan. So I had many opportunities to campaign, walk door to door, see what life was all about, being near to an elected official. And at that time in the early 80s, I said, there is no way in heck I would ever run for elected office. Fast forward to 1999, and this wonderful lady named Kathy Hicks kind of grabbed me and said, hey, Gary, you should run for city council. I served on the Parks and Rec Open Space Commission. Before that, we founded the Northgate Community Pride Foundation. So I was always very active in the community. And I just remember sitting around making the list. You know how you make a list? When you're an engineer, you make a list of do's and don'ts. And the list was not equal at all. But still, I was convinced to run. And I don't regret it for 1 minute. It was quite an honor.
I love the theater, and I got involved almost because of the theater, and got to know Sue Rainey and how it works, and got assigned to a committee to see how to improve the theater way back. And then I also was a CPA, and a whole lot of people thought if you're a CPA, you really want to do a lot of extra things like campaign reports, and truly the most boring job in the world, except they still send me notices about how I didn't file something I ought to, and I have to write them back and say, oh yes, I did. But anyhow, because of that, and because I was friends with people in the business, and when I retired from my CPA job, I thought, how am I going to fill in my time? And I thought, well, if I actually ran for city council, at least I know I'd get one vote, and hopefully one from my husband. Maybe it's worth taking it on. So I did, and by Jove, I got elected. And then once it's in your blood, it's in your blood forever.
Thank you all. Well, why don't we start, Loella, at your end for the next question. The most challenging issue you faced during your time as mayor of Walnut Creek?
How many?
Yeah. Well, let's just say the most challenging thing was 2020 and all the things that came with it. I hope these mayors, former mayors, are going to support me when I say I believe 2020 was the worst year to have been given the job of mayor. There were riots in front of our house. We had to buy new garage doors and have paint removed. We had riots in the shopping centers. We had a terrible, terrible change. We were going to have a profit at the end of the year from our budget so we could do some creative things. It turns out from March forward, all our economy dove, and we had to recover a significant amount of money to make it be balanced, because we had to operate at a city balance. We had to figure out what we could do with everybody wearing masks and trying to encourage, when they finally allowed a little bit more freedom of people moving around, how to get them back to downtown, how to get the businesses downtown to survive. So I'm going to have to say no one thing in 2020 stands out in my mind as the worst thing. It's all one giant jumble of bad.
What a buzzkill. Jeez, thanks.
And Gary and the rest of you, challenging does not have to be bad. Just challenging.
Challenging, well, again, backstory, when I was first elected from, let's say, 2000 to 2006, we were in a great cash position. And then y'all remember what happened in 2008, the Great Recession. So it wasn't as bad as 2020. Mm-hmm. But so I started as mayor in late 2008, and that was followed, if you all remember, maybe you don't, the Neiman Marcus referendum. And that literally consumed that's all I remember from that year being mayor, was dealing with the folks, and I'm on tape. I'll just leave it at that. That was very challenging. That's
Oh,
enough.
That's enough? Well, I'm going to go on for a long time then, because my challenging time were the 10 years of the growth wars in Walnut Creek. They started in, and I had to look all this up because the 80s were a long time and I don't remember a lot of this. In 1982, and they ended up in 1993. And we had a lot of confrontation. So backing up to that, I was at a, do you all know what the Golden Triangle is? Some of you might not know it. The Golden Triangle is the area where the BART station and the freeway come together. And that was all housing, little 1948 houses. And there was a plan to create a business center there, which exists today now. But nobody knew about it in the community except those of us who kept track of all of those things. So there was a lot of speculation. Like when BART came in, we, the developers, were going to build there. And so I remember this meeting where Peg Kovar and I saw the pictures or the renderings, yes, of what was going to happen there. And we said, uh-oh, uh-oh, because it was going to go from little houses to all what you see today. And the community didn't understand that. So they said, as soon as that started, they said, what are you doing to our city? You know, we like it the way it is. We don't want all that. But it was foregone that it was going to happen that way because of all the speculation and the plans and everything. So it started to come out of the ground, and several members of the community called the Citizens for a Better Walnut Creek, CBWC, had a citizens initiative, which the first one was a height limit, that you couldn't build anything higher than 10 stories in the city, and what was there had to be fixed in stone. You couldn't change that. That same Measure A still exists today. The city is still under that, and the only way that could be changed is by another citizens initiative. So that was the first one, but the granddaddy one was Measure H, which was the traffic control initiative. And it said that we couldn't build in the city unless the major roads, like Ignacio Valley, for example, were at measure of service D. Now, F is when it's gridlock. So D is when you can get through and several lights and so forth. Well, Ignacio Valley Road was already at F, so we were never going to achieve that. In other words, it stopped all growth. So this goes on and on. So then Dean Lesher, who was the publisher of the newspaper, sued. And that went to the courts, and the first judge said, no, this can't be, because it wasn't a general plan amendment. So you can get rid of Measure H. And then that was appealed by the CBWC folks. And the next judge said, oh, yes, it is. You can go forward. This is a general plan amendment. And so then Dean Lesher sued again, and it went all the way to the California Supreme Court. And the California Supreme Court said, it's not a general plan amendment. A general plan amendment means that it's in the Bible of the city. This is what it is. It was just a zoning measure, they said, because they never told the voters that it was a general plan amendment. So that's how Measure H, the traffic control initiative, went away 10 years later. Of course, we had to then figure out what we were going to do about that. And so we had all these other measures that we put before the voters. Do you like this plan? Do you like this plan? No. Do you like this plan? No. Do you like this plan? No. And I was off the council in '93, I think, when they finally agreed to a metering approach, a metering development. So that was my most challenging time. The 10 years I was on the council with that.
Good job.
Yeah.
Wow. So my most challenging moment was in 1997 when my council colleague Ron Begley died in office from cancer. We had to replace him by appointing someone, and we took applications, and we actually had interviews in the city council chamber live on TV, and we appointed Sue Rainey. The second most challenging time was in 2001, 9/11. Everybody was so shocked, and we had a community gathering in Civic Park to commemorate all those lost and to mourn together. And I think it was very effective. When I was trying to write my remarks, I was sitting at the computer and I kept crying. So finally it came out, but those were the two most challenging times. Challenging issues will come later, maybe.
Thank you all. Let's kind of flip it around, and we'll start with Kathy. The thing that you're most proud of from your time as mayor, what was the most pride you had in an accomplishment?
We're sitting in it right now. The library was a very contentious issue, mainly because of how to finance it. And we had many public hearings and public meetings, and finally hired an architect, and we were able to scrabble together funding from a number of different sources. And the Walnut Creek Library Foundation pledged to raise $5 million. And so we went ahead and approved it. I remember the meeting we had the night of approval was at the Las Lomas High School multi-purpose room, because we knew that so many people would attend, we needed more space. And many people did attend, and it went late into the night. But we did approve building the library. And it's been a wonderful central place for the community, and it's the most used library in the entire Contra Costa County system, with over 100,000 visits a year. So we're very happy it's here and serving all ages, all people, no matter what your income level. It's a free library. So thank you for supporting it.
You want me to go?
Well, Gail, you got to follow that.
Okay. Well, I've got a good one.
Okay.
My most, the thing that I am so proud of is the building of the Lesher Center for the Arts. Mm-hmm. Some of you remember that on the site of the Lesher Center, first of all, there was a walnut warehouse. Thank you, a walnut warehouse. And then they put the Nut House on, which was a small theater. But a group of community people like the Diablo Light Opera and so forth, they said, we need something bigger than that. So the council, I wasn't on then, in 1980, they appropriated $500,000 for a fundraising campaign. And the Regional Center for the Arts fundraising campaign did a lot of fundraising, and you can see who they got a lot of money from, because one of the theaters is called the Margaret Lesher Theater, and another one is called the Hoffman Theater, and the other one is called the Bedford Gallery. They got a lot of money from these big millionaires. And then they got 2,000 just people in the community giving money. The National Endowment for the Arts gave a grant, but still, when the bids came in for the facility, and remember, this was a while back, so this doesn't sound like very much now, but it was $21 million. What can you build for $21 million now? You couldn't build that, so we were short, and it had to go to the city council. The city council had me and Gwen Regalia as very strong supporters, but it also had Ed Skoog, Evelyn Munn, and Matt Matson, all of whom were the Citizens for Better Walnut Creek, CBWC, and they did not believe the city should be spending money that way. Well, you couldn't have we needed a third vote. We couldn't do it because the city had to pay, the city was asked to pay $13 million. Now at that time, Tom Dunn was our city manager, and he was tearing his hair out because he's so fiscally conservative. $13 million, you know, he was not really in favor of spending that money, and neither were the three CBWC people. But we could tell that Evelyn Munn kind of liked the idea of the arts. She was just hooked into this CBWC thing where Ed Skoog was the dominant person, and she would have to pull away from him. We sent her, the city sent her up to Portland, where they had just built a new facility, a brand new arts center. And when she went up there and she was wined and dined and she saw how beautiful it was, she came to the idea that this would be beautiful in Walnut Creek too. So there was our third vote. But when she pulled away from Ed Skoog, Matt Matson pulled away too. He just needed that permission. And when we actually voted on it, Ed voted for it too. So it was unanimous. So that's how we came to get the Leisure Center for the Arts.
Gary?
I can't compare to either one of those facilities.
And I've got to go last.
I'll leave something easy.
Oh, good.
What was the question again, specifically? Seriously.
During your time as mayor, the accomplishment you're most proud of?
As mayor or as council member?
If you
Either
want to
way?
go council member, you can go council member. Your time as a leader of Walnut Creek.
Man, there's so many good times. I do want to mention one thing about the library, because I was the one that made it contentious on the city council solely for the reason of I was afraid of the funding, the capital investment as well as the maintenance. What I'm most proud of is I followed my mom's advice and always went for what I believed, but once I saw the good things with the library, that night on the funding from Las Lomas, I did vote no. It was a typical city council 4-1 vote, was always Gary being the one. But once we gained momentum, I'm proud of the fact that for all of the architectural contracts, the construction contracts, I was completely on board with the rest of the council.
Yes.
But back to the question, what I'm really proud of, I guess it's comparatively speaking, is the ice rink, which a boy from Detroit coming to California and creating a seasonal ice rink. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. And I can still get goosebumps when I first skated on that in 2005.
Didn't you break your arm one time?
No, that was a different council member.
Oh,
I knew how to skate.
true enough.
And something else I really want to bring up is that we did I wasn't mayor, but we built the Veterans Memorial Plaza in 2001 or two. I think it was 2001 or 2. In 2004, I sat down with Harvey and Brad Rovenpera. Harvey was the leader of the Walnut Creek Orchestra, or the band, concert band. Oh. And we said, we kind of do nice things during Memorial Day and Veterans Day, but let's do something different. Let's really embrace the city. So we worked with the rest of the city. We would be able to close down Broadway out here. We intermixed special speakers along with musical pieces, and to this day, it's still, I believe, one of the best Memorial Day and Veterans Day ceremonies. I could go on and on about Veterans Day, but if we have time, we'll talk later.
Okay, everybody's going to hate me because the thing I'm proudest about and what I actually ran on for my first run was the half-cent sales tax. So if you resent having to pay a half-cent sales tax to Walnut Creek, it's me, because I never gave up on it, and it took another run and another run before it finally came into being. And one of the reasons that I believed in it was I was on a commission ahead of time for fiscal stability for the city, and then it was pretty apparent we had some old facilities and they needed to be updated. The pool was held together with spit and bubble gum. The buildings are having, they're just not even savable. The cost to repair them because of the changes of the laws were so substantial that it was better to wipe them out and start with new ones. And during my last term, hooray, hooray, the half-cent sales tax magically was passed. And so I got to grin from ear to ear. And even though I am not part of the council that's going to help make the decisions about if there's any money left over, I was part of the decisions for the improvements to the field, for the new pool building, and the new potentially important building that's going to be our emergency preparedness place. So I'm excited. I don't have anything to show for it like this, guys. I just have to live a little longer before they get built and I get to see how it turns out.
Thank you, Loella. Next question is, what advice would you give to young people to encourage them to participate in local government? You all four told us a little bit about how you made steps to become members of the city council, to become mayor. How do you get people to encourage them to participate? Because I think that's important today. Well, Loella, why don't we start with you?
And it's great you did, because I know the best answer. It's because we now have a youth commission that was installed while I was on council, and it takes high school level students and kind of teaches them what it's like to be part of a city and run a city. And it's grown and gathered strength. So now that some of them, we have a separate sub-program where I think two commissions now have them as ad hoc members. 3? It might be 3. They keep multiplying. And so they are actually communicating, taking on projects. I actually walked with them one day at a meeting that they had during one of the open space things, and nearly died trying to keep up with them. I'm done.
Well, I may sound like a baby boomer, but it starts at home. It starts with the parents. That's who has to really show interest. Don't let your youth, we'll call them, sit in front of a phone or sit in front of a screen. I mean, now, admittedly, when I was in high school, we had a civics class. I don't think they teach civics in high school anymore, but folks need to understand that it's about making your community, your neighbors, your friends, better people and live in a better place. That's how I was raised. That's when I moved to California. I got immediately involved, whether it was the schools, whether it was creating a foundation for Northgate Community Pride. It started with my mom, and it needs to start with all the parents of all of our children.
I don't know, Carol, do they teach civics?
I think they teach government senior year at Northgate.
Okay. Her daughter is.
Congress, that whole.
Okay.
They do mock conference.
And they have government senior year, I think. Yeah.
Every senior takes government and economics.
Yes, and there is also the state seal of civic responsibility, and so students are encouraged throughout high school to have high levels of involvement, of civic involvement, in addition to what was already mentioned.
Thank you.
Well, that's good to know,
Yes.
because I didn't know. I know in some schools, not here now, they don't teach civics anymore. And the impression that people have from our TV is that everything is done at the federal level. So people just think that that's what runs the country, and they never think about our local government. And they don't have a great knowledge of the local government and what it does. So that's one of the reasons that the don't understand it. And the other reason is what I go back to. You need a passion for something. We all kind of had a passion when we were running because there wasn't a leisure center, there wasn't a library, there were things to work on that showed our passion for things. And so I think that the kids have to have a passion for something in this community too. Otherwise they're going to do what they do. They're going to be on their phones. So that's what's missing, and maybe the parents are the ones that put the passion in them, or maybe the parents don't have the passion.
Or a good mentor.
Or a good mentor, right.
So interacting with the community, as a council member, you meet many people. And when I was walking door to door, when I first ran for office in 1994, I was in Ignatia Valley and knocked on a door, had a gentleman answer, and he had so many questions about the city. He was really curious about Walnut Creek and very interested. So I talked to him quite some time, and about a year later he applied for and was appointed to the Transportation Commission. He's now sitting in this room, and he's sitting on the city council. Kevin Wilk. So as a council member and mayor, you often are interacting with the schools. For example, you go to elementary schools to Read Across America Day, and usually the students have lots of questions about what you do. And I know that the mayors often visit the government classes too. And when I was on the council, we did have a youth council. And then we had the job shadowing day where students could follow different people in the city and see what they do. So I think just reaching out and interacting with people, when you see someone that has a talent or an interest, to encourage them to apply for a commission or a committee and get involved. You don't just fall off the turnip truck one day and say, I'm going to run for city council. You should get some experience and knowledge about the community first.
That's the correct way to do it.
That's the correct. Not everybody does
I
that.
invite you all to Northgate High School 10th graders have the If I Could Change the World project every year. So they actually think about something they want to change in their community and work together in groups on that project. And then they have a big fair at the end where they can display what they've worked on. And they're always looking for mentors and people to work with. So that's just another way that you can get involved. And thank you to all of you who have come out to speak to our students in our schools.
Thank you all. Kathy, we'll start with you on this one, and you may want to skip it because you gave such a good answer already. Most interesting story about door-to-door campaigning.
Yeah, I already told it. I had one lady say to me, I'm going to vote for you. You know why? Because you stopped at my door and you spoke to me, so I'm going to vote for you. So it does pay to walk door to door, and it takes an enormous amount of time, and you really need a committee of people that are willing to share that with you as you go campaigning. But it's a very important thing to reach out and touch people.
And I don't have anything to add to that.
And I mentioned at the beginning of the program how I first got introduced into campaigning. It was my mom's campaign back in the Detroit area. Now, a house district, state house district, is much larger than the city of Walnut Creek. So if you want to talk about walking your shoes off, and with Mom it was a state house every 2 years, not every 4 years like it is here. So the good story is now fast forward 20 years, my 70-year-old mom is walking door to door with Gary. I'd be walking one side of the street, she'd be the other side of the street.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my mom would be waving, and some other person would be waving, hey, come on over, I want you to meet my mom, meet my son. Oh, my goodness. It was like a good old Polish reunion in Detroit. And one other thing about campaigning that always rankled me a bit was when you knock on the door, and the first thing the resident would ask is, what party are you affiliated with? And my response would be, I am not. This is a nonpartisan race, and to this day, I wish we were more nonpartisan. It seems like we are getting more segregated in terms of party affiliation, and I wish we could do something about that. I just wanted to sneak that in.
You got it. Loella.
Yeah, I've got a couple of stories, some of which I can't tell. But the one that still tickles me is I was walking and I was in front of an empty lot essentially, and I was getting ready to go on to another thing. And one guy came to me and he said, "Are you running for office?" And I said, "Yes, here's my information." And just before I even finished to know it, it was some other guy came from the other direction and he said, "Oh yeah, you're running for office." So they're kind of, I'm in the middle, and they're starting to talk about it, and the lot was the big issue in the neighborhood, and they were arguing. One was for the building and one was totally against it. And I'm sitting thinking, this is going to cost me at least one vote, no matter what. However, I just actually had a brilliant moment. I just said, "Oh my gosh, I have to leave now. I'm going to be late for a meeting," and I just left them arguing without me. I am not going to say where it was because I'm sure you...
It wasn't Kevin Wilk?
It wasn't Kevin Wilk, no.
Well, one of the things you said, Gary, about partisanship sort of underlines my view that people don't understand local government.
Correct.
The parents don't understand it. They don't, and everybody thinks of the federal government and the partisanship there, and they translate that to what our government is. They don't have the understanding that it's different, and they could participate more directly.
Good point.
Let's start now with Loella. What do you miss most about being mayor and being on city council, if anything?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I actually, on the whole, loved being on city council. And I joked about it like the day after I retired. I said I went from being somebody to being nobody. And occasionally somebody will come up to me because I was still on city council last year. And they say, "Oh, weren't you on city council?" Yes, I was. Thank you for remembering. But it's kind of hard going back to being just a person. I hope I learn how to do it by the end of this year.
Gary?
I miss everything. It is such an honor to represent this city. Yeah. I trust that every council member and mayor feels the same way in their own city, but let's face it, Walnut Creek's pretty dang special. I'll never forget, after my first inauguration, whatever you want to call it, in 2005, mayor, I went home, looked in the mirror, and I just said, "My God, Gary, you're the mayor of Walnut Creek, the finest city." And I just started to cry. It's that good. So it's a lot of work. There's a lot of, I don't want to say negatives, but there's some days that like, oh my gosh, just like any job. You're wishing or thinking, what am I doing? But overall, the good memories far outweigh the tough times.
I don't know that I ran for other things, so I don't miss any of that running for anything.
I don't think anybody misses campaigning.
That part's ugly, yeah.
And so Walnut Creek, you said it well. We all are so proud of Walnut Creek, and so sometimes when we're driving around town, I say to my husband, who's out there, "I remember I did that. That's here because I was involved." And that's kind of a moment of pride that you did do something positive for the city. And so I don't miss that. I'm just proud of it.
Absolutely.
I agree with everything you've said, and I think being a part of the community and interacting with so many people was a wonderful opportunity, and there's so much pride that goes along with being a leader in Walnut Creek. So I miss that, but I have great memories.
If I could just add, please, when you are the mayor, it's a bit different than being on the council because you are the ambassador. You're the proponent. And the way other folks throughout the East Bay and throughout the state, you'll go down to a conference in Los Angeles, oh, you're the mayor of Walnut Creek. You miss being that ambassador for such a great town.
Well, I think we have time for one more panel group discussion, and then we'll open up for question and answers. I'm going to do a little twist on this final question. What would be your primary recommendation to the current city council on how to deal with some of the most pressing issue the city's facing today? I think we'll start with Kathy this time.
Well, I think one thing is the tax revenue, because retail has gone largely to the internet, and so many retail stores are dying, and yet Walnut Creek depends on the tax revenue to fund all the different projects. So how to keep downtown lively and healthy and attract new business is always going to be a challenge. I don't have any magic solution, however. And I think the council just needs to continue to listen to the community and let them know that they hear them, even if they don't agree. So communication is so important.
Well, Kathy just said my things. We were talking about that in advance of the meeting, is that retail is the biggest source of income for the city. And now that the internet is so important, it really is a big question. Jim and I went to visit Tom Dunn before he passed away, and he ran the city with an iron fist financially.
For the audience, who is Tom Dunn?
Oh, Tom Dunn, the city manager that I mentioned who didn't want us to spend any money on the, and at 99 years old, when we visited him, he said, Gail, what's Walnut Creek going to do? Because retail is so important to the city. And I thought, wow, this man is still thinking about that, still wanting to be the person who solves issues in Walnut Creek. And it's not just Walnut Creek, it's all sorts of cities. What are they going to do about that? And then communication reminds me of how I started with the Golden Triangle and how that was on the books for so many years, but nobody knew about it. So we did a lot of additional things with communication, like there was no filming of the council meetings. We put that into place. There was no nutshell. We put that into place. And now we need to figure out a little bit, I don't know whether we need to, the council needs to figure out a little bit better how to communicate people that's not just paper, and how are you going to get to people who are always on social media? What are you going to do to keep them informed about what's happening in their city? Because they're not listening to you on television. You know, they don't really know. So communication, I think, is one of the key issues that the council needs to work on. Not because they're doing anything wrong, just that we need to keep it going.
We're on the same page. Not a surprise. Economic development is the biggest. Walnut Creek is facing more competition from surrounding cities than we ever have. Right after I got off the city council, I joined the Walnut Creek Downtown Business Association, now known as WCD. Been on it ever since. I was president for a while, now treasurer, and we have to recognize there's folks that are trying to copy what we do here in Walnut Creek. And it's not just the downtown retail. It's wonderful. You walk downtown on Broadway Plaza on the weekends, it's fantastic. I live downtown, I just walk around and just smile. It's so much fun. But it's beyond the retail. We have a great opportunity to attract healthcare businesses. We need to reach out to more than just the retail folks. Ed and I are on an economic development committee that we are always scratching for new ideas, and we can't stop. we often hear the term rest on one's laurels. I think Walnut Creek did that for a while, and I think we're getting out of that, and I can't encourage the current council enough. The other topic you brought up was listening. We need to listen better as a council, and I'm considering all of us as a city. Listen to your city, and listen to what the people really want in this town, not special interests, and let's focus on economic development.
I could get away with ditto.
But you won't.
But no, I won't. The words that came to my mind the very minute you asked the question was always for the council to keep an open mind, because you never know what's going to come through the door in the next month, year, and what problems are going to happen, and not be hidebound that everything has to be what it was in the good old days. You need to be, you have the ability to adapt to new ideas, and sometimes the new ideas come from the strangest places. So I think that it's important that the council keep an open mind and welcome new ideas. I know that while I was on council, we did strategic plan updates for the council and the city pretty much every 2 or 3 years. I think the council just went through a process where they did some analysis. I think personally we have to work on more than just retail, because retail has changed, and we need to have more things downtown that are participatory for people to come and enjoy. And while you're down here, there's a store or two you might want to attend as well. But there's lots of growth and lots of possibilities. We just have to keep an open mind and not try and keep Walnut Creek what it is, but what it will be.
I think we should all run again.
Can I take a year off?
Well, I want to say thank you to all 4 of you. Before we open it up for some Q&A, I think we should all be proud of the leadership we have had. And we can be proud of the leadership we do have here in Walnut Creek. It really is a special city.
Well said.
We have people for questions.
If you'll wait, my colleague or I will find you with a microphone so everyone can hear the questions, and our lovely moderator will pick you out. We'll start with Ed.
Thank you. So again, I want to echo that one reason why Walnut Creek is a great city is what you 4 have done. So thank you for what you have done. Now I have a difficult question. One of the causes of economic development issues that we have is the lack of affordable middle-class housing. Any ideas on how we can get more housing built? We're not building enough.
That's a question for Kevin.
That's why I'm here and not up there.
Who's going to go first? Not me.
I don't have any idea.
I'll start off. So, people complain about growth. That's been the age-long complaint in Walnut Creek, is too much growth. But actually, I looked at the population numbers. In the last 30 years, we've had less than 9% growth. So I think infill development is still one of the key answers, because it fills in where people can live close to jobs and commute centers, and it protects our single-family neighborhoods. And there's still room for more infill housing. Also, it provides a little bit less expensive housing than the single-family homes, so that our children can afford maybe to live in Walnut Creek. That's our hope.
And my hope, Ed, is to create more housing opportunities in downtown. Let's face it, the city's pretty much landlocked. We're not going to go build in the open space. We're not going to go across the freeway. And we've got underutilized property in downtown. Prime example, if you look at the CVS parking lot, a sea of asphalt. That no longer can be in Walnut Creek. And I know that other folks have tried to get those parcels together. It'll eventually happen when the price is right, but that means the council's got to be creative in making it lucrative. That's the wrong word, but it's the word I'll use, for folks to want to invest in downtown Walnut Creek with residential housing.
I'm going to answer the question a little differently. Walnut Creek has been the poster child for supporting and helping fund low-income and middle-income families and properties. And the problem is there is a cultural issue with people wanting everything to look like the tree-bound streets and lots of open space for their backyards and things like that. And we either have to embrace them and say, convince people that it's good for them to welcome more people in the downtown, so we have to change, we have to have funding, which is incredibly difficult for building all of the middle income housing, as you probably know already. But we also have to convince people that it's a good thing for them to have additional housing in the area. And until we get over those two hurdles, I can't see a whole lot of real possible answers. I mean, we're struggling. You didn't have to sit through all of those RENA housing number of things where pages and pages and pages were required by the state of, well, they've gotten thicker.
Oh, I know.
Thicker.
May I dare ask a question of the room? Raise a hand of who lives in downtown multifamily housing that is in this audience. That's all.
This is not a solution, but back in the day when I was telling you about CBWC and the Measure H and all that, they also had a proposition, a citizens initiative to stop second family homes, accessory dwelling units. And that one got voted down. So the community was not going to go that way. They thought that was acceptable. And that's still an acceptable answer, is having more accessory dwelling units, ADUs, in backyards of people that are underutilized. It's not going to solve the problem, but it's one of the little possibilities.
Can I defend the city right now? Because as late as last year, I knew the answer of all these things. We, as a council, and as the whole staff, we tried very hard to make affordable ADUs possible. We embraced all the state laws that sometimes didn't exactly make sense to us about splitting lots. That should have been easy to say. Splitting lots to have housing a little closer to each other than it used to be. You used to need big yards. We've done a whole lot as a council recently to try to adapt to the need for additional housing, in addition to, I will get this one more time, being the poster child for helping fund those kinds of developments.
Any other questions? Oh.
Hi, I'm Charisse Cound. I am on the Mount Diablo School Board, so thank you for all of your encouragement of young people. But the other hat that I wear is I'm a field rep for our state assembly member. And so I am curious what it is that you think that our state legislature really needs to know about the city of Walnut Creek, the realities and the priorities of our city.
I'll take that one on. Partly the problem for Walnut Creek is the state only looks at the state as a whole. They are not capable of pulling out a city like Walnut Creek and saying, you're working hard, you're doing it right. So they give us the same stupid...
Tell us what you really think.
Hard to comply with rules. How's that? Hard to comply with rules that they give to cities that have completely blocked additional housing and issues like that. So there is, we hope that before the world ends, that the state government doesn't treat us like every other city, because we're not every other city. Our problems are not the same as San Francisco. Our successes are not the same as Concord. So give us a break and help us do what we need to do, because we know how to deal with our situation.
Amen. Well said.
Thank you.
I'll take the fifth. To talk about our state government, I'm not going there. Thank you.
I don't have anything to add.
That's fine. I don't either.
We can talk afterwards what I really think.
Any other questions? We have time for one or two more. Or we don't.
Oh,
A family member.
You know, it just hit me again that we have more than 40 years going every year during that time, except possibly 2 years without one of you being on council and mayor. More than 40 years. I think about all the times that we've had. You've brought in quite a few things that you've seen during your time. Even before that, in downtown with Nordstrom and so on coming in, and the old Penny. When to go during that time, we remember that and the improvement with that. We think about a good thing for the Heather Farm and the golf course and so on. Do any of you foresee things that we should have coming up next 5-10 years that would be good, large things that we've had? My thing is bocce courts. We should have more bocce courts. But anybody of you thinking about in the future?
Nothing specific, Jerry, but I walk downtown all the time. I live downtown, work downtown, and it's just so underutilized. So I have this vision of what it could be, and it's just going to take a lot of hard work, some courage, some tough decisions, and working with the development community. I can't draw a picture of it, but it's a vision that takes what we have now and just expands and explodes. Not like another pool, not like more tennis courts, and we don't need another golf course. It's downtown is our future. Come on down. Move down. It's lovely.
One more question?
I have a quick question.
Brendan in the back.
I'm Brendan Moran. I'm on the Library Foundation. Thank you both for being here. It's learning a lot. When you first ran, I was in grade school or high school, because I'm here in the 80s, 90s, a couple 2000s. And the city, as it stands today, is different from when you guys decided to get involved in local government. So my question is, if you were just starting fresh today, would you run again? And why?
I would not run again, no. I did my duty, and I went beyond that. I was on the BART board. I ran for state assembly. I don't want to run anymore. and I'm not dissatisfied with the people who are running this city right now. So I don't see any reason to usurp anything. I think it would be good to have younger people on the council. I'm not saying you're old, but
I'm not on anymore.
I'm not looking at you. I'm not. When I was on the council, we were all in our 40s, and that's not the case anymore. There are people in their 50s now, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it would be good to have younger people, I think, give a little more energy to the current issues. But what do you think, Brandon? What are the current issues we should have?
I guess my question is, if you were starting, let's say you were me, right, and you were, you transport yourself back into the 40s, but you're currently living in the Walnut Creek of today, right? Would you still have the fire, or would you see too many challenges, or would you see even more of an opportunity to run, right? Does that make sense? So when you ran in the 80s, Gail, transport yourself, 43-year-old Gail into today's world, and would you then currently run? I think the answer is probably yes, but I'm just curious if you guys see the city differently now than when it was, a couple decades ago.
I'll answer it this way. Part of the reason I termed myself out of office is that I was so fortunate to join in 2000 with Kathy, Sue, Gwen, Charlie. We were public servants. We weren't politicians. And as I went through the 12 years, it became very political, very party politics. And I believe it's worse now. And I am an independent. I will always be an independent. I'm going to vote what I feel is right for the city of Walnut Creek. To your point, all good government is local. And so, no, I wouldn't run again because it's now driven by the parties, just like our state is. Oops, I said I wasn't going to talk about the state. Good luck.
Thank you, Gary.
I think there's a fine line between being gung-ho and coming on the council because you're going to change the world, and coming on the council because you want to see and guide changes as they come. I'm kind of the second sort of person than the first sort of person, other than the half-cent sales tax. But that was because people had convinced me there was a real need and a real plan for what that money was going to be used for. But I also think that I wanted to bring a different point of view to the council. The council, my first council, was a pretty contentious council. And it wasn't always fun to be there because we'd have 3-2 votes, and it wouldn't be, people would not say nice things to each other, and it was not a pleasant experience. Fortunately, that was only 2 years in my career, and then it moved into a series of convivial, get along with each other. Okay, you said something really dumb, but I love you anyhow kind of council. So I think there's kind of two kinds of people. People who are coming on with that drive, and people who are coming in to balance. And I told you what I was.
If I interpret the question correctly, it was if I were 30 years younger, would I run again? I certainly wouldn't run at my age now, but yes, I think I would, because it's a very wonderful community and lots of new challenges and wonderful people to work with. So I think I would. I encourage you to run again, too.
All right. Thank you very much. I know Lauren's got a few words. I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to thank our 4 mayors for joining us. It was really special.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you to these 4 wonderful people who've led this community for almost 40 years, as Jerry pointed out. Kathy, that was a really wonderful note to end on, so thank you. This is a very special year for our 2 libraries in Walnut Creek. We're celebrating the 15th anniversary of this building, thanks to some of these people right here. In a month, just over a month from now, we'll be celebrating the 15th anniversary. And in September, the Ignacio Valley Library turns 50 years old. So this is a big year for the Walnut Creek Library Foundation, so it means the world to us that you are all here tonight. Please visit our website. Keep an eye out for more updates. We're taking a break from Live from the Library for a couple months, but we'll be back in September with an exciting program, so watch out for that. Thank you again, Loella, Kathy, Gail, and Gary. This was a really wonderful program. Thank you to all of you. Enjoy some refreshments in the back and get home safely. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.